Hello. Today, I would like to talk about Invincible, the Amazon Prime TV show, which was created by Robert Kirkman as a comic book originally. And I have a co host. If you'd like to introduce yourself,
Hello, I'm Daniel. How are you, Logo?
pretty good. Ready to talk about awesome stuff?
I am ready. I've been looking for somebody to talk to about Invincible, so I'm glad. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Okay. So, as I said, this is a comic series. It has, I think, 144 issues spanning about 25 volumes, and it was created by Robert Kirkman. Are you a fan of Kirkman?
I am. I've read a lot of his stuff. Mainly, the longest thing was probably I've read all of The Walking Dead. I was one of those people that stuck it out all the way through. Um, Other than that, it's just been little miniseries. I've checked out everything he puts out. Some of it just like it's on my to read pile, but yeah, I like his stuff a lot.
Cool, cool. Didn't get super on board with Walking Dead. I love zombie movies. I don't know. The comic book just didn't get me. I love Outcast, however. That's one of my favorite comics.
I Yeah, Outcast is one of those that I need to finish up or at least catch up to where they are.
Yeah, I need to
Um,
catch up too, but like I was really, really digging it.
mhm.
All right. So Invincible, I think, is one of the first comic books he put out. He started back in like 2003.
Yeah,
Have you read any of those comics? I've read the first
I
three volumes.
so I hadn't until we decided to do this, and I was like, well, let me at least read one to see what the feel is. I was gonna treat this kind of like I treat anime and manga. Like I'll watch the first season of a new anime, and then if I like it, I'll go back and check out the manga. So I was planning to do the same, but I wanted to at least get a feel of like how much of the comics are they adapting to the episodes,
Yeah.
and then the look. I think the look is very important to see how it translates. So I read the first volume, um, which is very good.
Yes. I will say, in terms of like the art style, it's very in line with the comic book.
Yeah.
I think they have some of the artists from the comic book like overseeing the show, which is really cool. That's kind
Mhm.
of unusual. So I really like that they did that.
Yeah, this one's it's a Kirkman thing that he'll start a series with an artist and then somebody else will take over. The Walking Dead was the same way. I think Outcast is one of the ones that has actually kept a consistent artist, but Corey Walker started this on volume one, and then as volume two fades in, like he stops working on it, and Ryan Audley comes in, who was the artist throughout most of the series. But Corey Walker comes in and out. Like every once in a while, they'll have guest artists and stuff. So it's nice to see that consistency.
Yeah, that's really cool. I like that Kirkman seems to kind of work with the same people. Like I noticed in terms of the voice cast, a lot of the people in the show were
Mm,
on The Walking Dead. Like
yeah.
particularly all of the Guardians of the Globe had
Yep.
been on The Walking Dead, which I really like that. It's clear that, people like working together and they'll rehire people that they enjoy working with. That's
Yeah.
that's really cool.
Well, it's really telling that people that people like to work with Kirkman and they'll come back and do stuff again.
Absolutely. So guess we can just go ahead and start talking about the show now. So you said
Yeah.
that you hadn't read the comic book before you watched the show. So what was your first impressions of episode one? Because you kind of have to
Oh,
talk about it in two parts, right?
yeah, pretty much. And episode one, I'm a sucker for superhero stuff, so I was definitely on board.
Same.
And then you get the first part of the episode, and it seems pretty standard stuff. Mark just typical teenager, like very. I got a lot of Spider-Man feels out of this. Like he's just a dude trying to deal with this being a teenager, but then also he has this special develops powers or whatever. I love seeing all the pastiches of other superheroes from different universes because that's really all they are. They're just like they call them something different, but you can kind of tell who everyone is.
Yeah. With the Guardians
Yeah,
of the Globe, I mean, it's like clearly
yeah.
like Batman, Wonder Woman, um, Martian Manhunter,
Hmm.
Green Lantern. I don't know who the
Uh,
Immortal is supposed to be, but Aquaman,
um, yeah,
Flash.
so I think I was looking online and he's supposed to be like a mix of Vandal Savage and Superman, which is
Oh, okay.
weird. Like it's a weird mix. But yeah, so he's the one I'm the most interested in, and we can, when we get to the second part of the first episode, I can
Yes.
talk a little bit about more why.
So with the first episode, I hadn't really compared it to Spider-Man because I just haven't read as many of those, but it seemed kind of a typical like origin
Yeah,
story for the titular character Mark, who will become the superhero Invincible. And
yeah,
it was very, nuclear family with his mother Debbie and his dad Nolan, who is this like Superman-esque superhero Omni-Man.
yeah.
I actually really like the name Omni-Man. And it
Me
seemed
too.
very like it was establishing this sort of family scenario, which just, two of the members happen to be superheroes, is very father
Mhm.
son bonding, father mother bonding. And then, but we also have like these Guardians of the Globe, who are this like group of superheroes, it's kind of like the Justice League. And then the second half of then the end credit scene for the episode
Yeah,
happened. And that really changed my mind about how I was viewing the episode.
it's still like, I don't know, 7 to 10 minutes long, like that whole
Yeah,
sequence at the end,
it's a
which I
long
didn't
end
know
credit scene.
I didn't know these episodes were going to be so long. I was expecting like a 20-minute cartoon, normal runtime, but now looking at how many episodes they're going to do this first season,
I
uh,
think it's
I can
8,
see,
right?
yeah, I can see why it's 45. So we kind of picked the perfect time to talk about it because it's the midway point of the first season. So that worked out
Yes.
nicely. Um, I do like that Mark is not like a super cocky guy, because even though he knows he's gonna get powers, he's not sure, right? They have that conversation. I don't think Viltrumites, I think that's the Viltrumites is the where he
Yeah.
comes from. Uh I don't think they always mate in the planets that they go to. Also, the backstory of like who he is and where he comes from and why Omni-Man is on Earth. Um it feels it feels familiar, but it's different in a lot of
I
ways.
was kind of getting like Saiyan vibes. Like this is basically
Yeah,
what Goku would have been had he not hit his head on the spaceship that first day he landed on Earth.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I was so I saw at the beginning that it was R-rated in 45 minutes. So I was like, okay, this is probably going to be a little bit more of an adult type of cartoon, like The
hmm,
Boys. And that's kind of what I
yeah,
was thinking. But then it gets to the end. I'm like, well, it gets to the part where Mark finds out he has powers at dinner, and then Nolan or Omni Man has that moment where he gets very serious and it's really weird. And he asks to be sure. And then when you get to the end, I was like, okay, he arose my suspicions, but not that much. I
yeah,
definitely did not expect that to happen. That was just
yeah.
a bloodbath.
Well, and as somebody that hadn't read the comic up until that point, I think I've heard little bits of like Omni-Man's not more. He's not exactly what he seems to be,
Oh, okay.
but I never knew it was gonna go that far. Like it went very far.
Yes. And what's interesting about this show is it has set up quite a few villains that seem like they're going to last not only this entire season, but probably lead into hopefully a season 2. Like this show
Oh yeah,
is doing a really good job in terms of setup, which I appreciate, and foreshadowing. Definitely. There's a lot of foreshadowings, and you can tell like when people are having conversations like, oh, this means more.
right. They matter. They actually, it's not just the random talk. Not when you mention villains, the twins or clones or
Knowledge twins.
whatever. Yeah, I love those guys. They're so, I love that their whole like, I'm the main clone or whatever.
Yeah, I'm the
I
original, you're the clone.
I love that whole thing. They also get the coolest soundtrack almost every time they're on screen throughout the episodes. They get Run the Jewels songs, and I'm
Yes.
like, what the hell?
The soundtrack for the show is really great, like really
Yeah,
really great. I think the when in the second episode, when all the Flaxens keep attacking, the song Tom Tom by Holy Fuck,
yeah.
or it might be reversed, the song might be Holy Fuck by Tom Tom, but that is such a good song. I was I appreciate a good soundtrack to a show.
Me too, because we're inundated with like superhero stuff where we normally get those big orchestral soundtracks, which I also love. I'm a big fan of those. Like Simmer and Silvestri, like they know what the hell they're doing. but to have it with more like this just feels more contemporary and it gives it a different feel. I I hate saying like it feels like indie comics because it is indie comics, but yeah, indie comics were always kind of like the cool kid on the block in the 90s and in the early 2000s when this stuff was first coming out.
I feel like it's an Image comic, and I feel like
Mhm.
that's probably one of the bigger like indie comics
Yeah.
that's not like a DC or a Marvel. And that it's kind of making, not necessarily making fun of them, but it's certainly kind
Hey,
of, it's making heavy references
they take a
to
lot of
them.
shots every once in a while. Yeah.
Definitely, definitely, definitely. I also wanted to mention the Muller twins are voiced by Kevin Michael Richardson, who is the voice of Guru in the 1995 Mortal Kombat. I don't know why I found that,
Oh, that's
but it
so
is.
cool. He
Yes,
just plays those big beefy characters.
definitely, but he also has that voice for it, right?
Hmm.
So in episode 2, we have Omni Man kind of comatose throughout most of the
Well,
episode.
do you want to go over the last sequence on episode 1?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Because oh my god,
That's true.
that was for anybody that's watched Game of Thrones, that was like a red wedding moment if you know what that means.
Oh, I don't.
Especially for somebody that's never read the book. And I read volume 1 because I wanted, and like in volume 1 they don't show you as much, like it's not as graphic, it's not as expanded with like the fight.
Yeah.
So I'm curious if in the future in the comic we're gonna see that fight more extended, like as a flashback or something.
Oh, maybe. Well, I don't want to spoil what happens later, but there in volume 3 you get some stuff.
Okay.
But in terms of like that last scene, I think I literally wrote Batman just got juiced. Then Green Lantern just got the straw punched like a Capri Sun.
Yep.
Aquarius just became Nearly Headless Nick's best friend. Martian Manhunter got that pimple popped, and holy fuck, War Woman just got exorcist like she was Reagan. I really liked the change they made for the Immortal, where he is in disbelief that Omni Man is
Hmm.
doing this and just
Yeah.
asks why. Where in the comic book he says, "I never liked you," and Omni Man replies, "The feeling was
uh
mutual." So there was more of an opposition between those two. I
yeah, yeah.
like that they're setting up in the animated version Omni Man to be more of a hero and more of a trustworthy
Mm.
person than he was in the comic book, even at the
Well,
get-go.
yeah, and the most brutal one I think is Red Rush, because you spend some time in that kill. He's holding him by the head, but Red Rush is so fast that he gets in like I don't know how many punches he
I
got
mean,
in
he's
there. Like,
breaking his hands,
yeah.
hitting him. And that's also the first kill. So the first one, it's just, oh, now I understand how bloody. I get why this is R-rated. I
Hmm.
didn't expect. And then the blood massacre happens.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense to take out the speedster first, so you don't like, so they can't get away. Uh,
Yeah.
and everyone after that, like when he took out War Woman, I was like, oh my god, like it was super brutal. I was angry when I finished watching the episode, but like in a good way because it like I was so surprised by what happened. Like I was like, I hate this, but it's what hooked me. I'm like, I need to come back, and luckily they
Yeah.
released 3 episodes. Because I would have been very upset if I had to wait a week uh, to get to episode 2.
Yeah, that would have been a week of contemplating things.
I might have
Yeah,
gone
it's
and read the whole comic.
definitely
Yeah,
one of the best hooks. I mean, talk about a
yeah,
punchline, uh, for sure. I think that's going down as like my favorite end credit scene.
yeah. It's very good.
And I like that Omni Man then passes out from exhaustion. Like that was the hard thing for him to do. I don't know about emotionally, but physically that was a hard thing for him to do.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, which I think in the comic it's a little different because you kind of see him take everyone, like they don't show you how he takes everyone out. So I'll just keep reading and get to that volume 3, see if it pays off.
Yeah, they definitely elaborate a lot more. There are a lot of things that you're just told in the comic book that
Okay.
they're showing you now. There are also a lot of things they've, omitted. I think, having 15, 17 years to kind of look back and write it down again
Yeah.
is really helps, and they've really refined the story for this new medium in the terms of it being on TV rather than just a comic book. And they
Right.
made it a really, really tight story. Like, this is
Mhm.
really phenomenal storytelling.
And that's kind of what gave a good leg up to the boys as well. They've had all this time to like. I haven't read all of the boys, but there's a lot of stuff that just doesn't translate. Like, it's just not very good at now anymore. It's just tropes that were happening back in the day, and uh, kind of weird storytelling that was selling comics in the early 2000s when the book came out. So I feel like they've had, yeah, Kirkman's had that hindsight of 20 extra years of creating comics and seeing how the medium has evolved and all that.
Like, I like how they changed Adam Eve's costume a little bit, and they have the character Doc Seismic comment on it,
Hmm.
and she says, "I made it myself." I like
Yeah.
that reference to kind of desexualizing a character when I'm
Yeah.
sure I don't know. I mean, Robert Kirkman must have been very young when he was writing these in the beginning. So I like,
Yeah.
growing up a bit and realizing maybe the chick should wear shorts instead of just a bathing suit.
Yeah, the comic definitely has a lot of those like cheesecake shots that you're seeing Eve from behind and she's talking to somebody, but the angle is really low, like just stuff like that you know it was it was what was happening then. There's no like you know but one cool thing from the comic that I did read, when Mark's getting his costume originally in the comic, they mentioned that he thought it was Omni-Man got his powers from the sun, so he made him a sun absorption suit. Like
I thought
that's
he
why
said
it's
he thought he got his powers from
yeah,
the
he
sun and
he
realized.
thought, yeah, so
Oh, okay.
the designer thought he got him, but then they found out that was not true, which is both a nice little nod to Superman and like kind of explanation of why the original suit is the color it is for Invincible, that prototype that it shows
Oh,
him.
that's cool. I didn't quite catch that. Yeah, that's awesome. And I do like all these nods. Like, the comic book definitely has a lot of fun nods. I think the high school, I didn't notice if it was the name in the animated version, but in the comic book, it's Reginald Vell Johnson, who
Hmm.
is the name of the dad from Family Matters. I love
Yeah,
the actor,
and
Carl
and he
Winslow.
voices the principal in the
Oh, I
show.
didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I pulled up the credits so I could see like make sure I have the name so we don't spend 20 minutes talking about what's their name.
Yes, that is a hard game. I know too well.
um
Yeah, I think in one point in the comic book, I like they have a Mark has a poster of Science Dog, which in
mhm.
in the show it's Seance Dog, and
Yeah,
I really need there to be a Seance Dog comic. I haven't looked up to see if there is, but I will fully get all in on Seance Dog if there is.
let's get a Kickstarter going.
Yes, he needs to write one. He's teased me with it. Now I need it.
Yeah.
Okay, so transitioning, I guess, into the second episode where Omni-Man is still comatose and we get introduced to the government.
Oh,
And
jeez.
yes, the Global Defense Agency is the agency, and the guy that we meet who runs it is Cecil Stedman, who is voiced by the amazing Walton Goggins,
Oh,
which is
yes.
like the best name ever.
One of my favorite character actors. I love him in pretty much. I'll watch anything
Yes.
he's in just to check it out.
I haven't seen that Santa Claus movie he was in yet, but it's on my watch list. I also like it. Every Invincible, the title drop is great every time, and also how it continuously gets more and more blood splattered. I hope at the end
Mhm.
it's just totally red.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah,
goal.
I don't remember who tweeted something out, and I was like, I know I didn't catch it, but I know who did, and then I tagged you in that because I knew that's the kind of stuff that I notice in your videos you pay a lot of attention to, and I'm glad I was right.
Yes. Also, it's just such a fun. I love when writers and animators pay that close attention to do stuff
Mm.
like that. It's really really fun.
Yeah.
I really like the invisible agents. I don't think I've ever really seen that before. I love how the government seems to have all this tech, but still feel the need for superheroes. Also, on a side note, I don't understand why there are so many dragons in this universe, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah,
It's
there's a lot of stuff.
just a weird thing I noticed.
He's
Uh,
always out fighting kaiju.
yeah, there's so many kaiju. What happened? What happened? So we
Pacific
get
Rim. They lost Pacific Rim,
did
so they
he
didn't
invent
close it.
Pacific Rim? Now we know. It's Kirkman's fault. Maybe they opened up the portal for like the HP Lovecraft verse.
Oh, maybe. Yeah.
So we start to see Mark trying to become more and more of a hero, especially now that his father's incapacitated and the Guardians of the Globe are out. So we get introduced to these aliens that come through these portals called the Flaxons, and
Yes.
a phenomenal song that I mentioned earlier, Tom Tom by Holy Fuck, or reverse that because I don't know
No,
which
you gotta write it. Yeah.
song. And he completely messes up. He totally freezes. He inadvertently gets this poor woman, I think her name was Maya, killed. And on a bright note, though, he meets the teen team. I really like the name of these teams. Fight
What a
Force
name.
Teen Team. Yes. And again, all these voice actors are really great. So this team just has like 4 people. It's Adam Eve, who is Britta from Community. Robot is Zachary Quinto, which is he's so perfect to voice a robot.
So good.
Rex Explode and Duplicate. I also, on a side note, really like the puns.
So a few things about Rexplode. Not only is he voiced by the amazing and hilarious Jason Mantzoukas, who I also love. Like he's a comedian. Like he plays the best assholes and douchebags on TV ever.
That's a
And
horrible typecast.
but he does it so well. And then the second thing I noticed when I was doing the rewatch, I was like, oh my god, Rexplode is Gambit. Holy fucking
Yes.
shit. And I didn't notice that. And I love Gambit, but he's also kind of a douche. And he has the same kind of powers where he just, makes things explode. So uh,
Yes.
I also like Duplicate's power. Like she just doesn't care. As long as one of her is alive, she can kind of keep going.
I don't understand how her suit makes a new number. It's very interesting.
Yeah, that's very superhero-y.
So they come and help Mark. I think we both agree that we really liked that team. I like that there's
Yes.
multiple teams and there's like levels to like how much people like them. That does seem kind of like a the boys sort of thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of want to meet the Fighting Fury or whatever the
Fight
fourth
Force.
team is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Fight Force.
Fight Force.
Yes.
Um,
I'd like to know what the other teams are. Maybe we get introduced to them. I think in the comic books there's one called Capes Inc.
oh, cool. That's a
Uh,
good name.
there's a villain team called the Lizard League, like the alliteration there.
Who Fight Force lost to? That's why they suck. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So we also get introduced to Damien Darkblood,
Oh,
who, okay, so I saw as kind of a combination between like Hellboy and Constantine, but I guess he's supposed to be Rorschach. But he's a cool demon
well,
detective.
yeah. So Rorschach is just based on the question because they didn't let Alan Moore use the question or the Charleston characters. So you're right. I mean, he pretty much is. It's like it's Hellboy, the question, and geez, who was Constantine.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's kind of all 3. The voice by the amazing Clancy
Clancy
Brown.
Brown, one of my all-time favorite actors, and one of
Yes,
the best voices to have ever graced any screen.
for sure. The only other casting I would have not preferred, but I would have been okay with would have been Ron Perlman.
Yeah.
So but either
Yeah.
either guy, I think Damien Darkblood, perfect.
Yes. And so I would, how I'm understanding his character is that he has escaped hell and he is trying to solve crimes and save people so that he doesn't go back to hell.
Mm-hmm.
And he's quite old, doesn't have great grammar, and it seems
No,
like nobody likes him.
no, I
But he
mean
does,
he makes the room chilly when he gets there, so that's
You
already
know
a
what?
-1.
You have a great point. I also would not like him, if we're being honest. If he made the room hot, he'd be my best friend.
Yeah, yeah. So one thing I wanted to bring back. So in episode 2, we see somebody put Immortal's head in like these tubes or something. I have a feeling, and this is just me not reading the comics yet, and you can not like, you can comment or not. Uh, I have a feeling we're not done with Immortal.
I will say no comments on that
Okay,
either way, but it is
great.
mentioned either way in the comic.
Okay,
So they do
yeah.
go a little more into that. I will, I guess I go ahead and spoil this for the comic. I have read it, but I know the comic itself does a reboot, kind of making fun of how DC does reboots. So it itself does a reboot. So
Oh,
the Guardians, I think some of them do come back when that happens, to different effects.
oh, that's so interesting.
So he retconned
I mean,
himself.
yeah, that's hilarious.
Yes, and
Like,
I
yeah,
cannot
that's
wait to
definitely
get
a
to
big
that
shot of
more.
him.
So either way, we do see in the comic books at least those characters again.
Mhm.
But I think that that's shown like technology wise to show that one, they were trying to save the heroes, and
Yeah,
two, that these people do have a lot of high tech. At
yeah.
first, I couldn't tell if Cecil could transport himself, or it took me a minute to realize that that was technology that was
Oh
allowing him
yeah,
to do that.
yeah, dude. That's pretty scary. They can be anywhere.
Yes, and then I like that he yells at Mark when he comes into his room and interrupts a date. He just knows where everyone is in his house. I hope he's not actually watching poor Amber in the bathroom, and he just knows that
Oh
she's
yeah,
going to
because
be
he
there.
just knows. It's all
Yeah,
they have all those sensors, so he knows.
he knows too much.
Yeah.
But the important part about Damien Darkblood is that he knows
Oh.
Omni-Man killed the Guardians of the Globe,
Hmm.
and Cecil knows too. And they seem to be butting heads, which comes to a confrontation in the 4th episode. And I really felt like Cecil made an enemy where he should have made a friend.
Yeah, I think Cecil right now, it's like maybe his approach is keep your enemies close, or your friends close, your enemies closer, and
Yes.
that's why he hasn't turned on Omni-Man, because I feel like that if you're antagonizing Omni-Man, as we've seen, doesn't normally end well.
Well, he said he needed to keep things gray, that he
Mhm.
needed to know why Omni-Man killed the Guardians of the Globe, and he needed to know how to stop Omni-Man.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
like we know Superman's weakness is kryptonite. You know what I mean? Like I don't think
Yeah.
it said any kind of way if Omni-Man has a weakness and what that is, or if it's just a little bit more realistic in that his weakness is just someone stronger than him.
Yeah, yeah, because as far as we know, Veltrum's still floating around, so there's no pieces of his planet.
Yeah. Yes. It's always confused me. Like,
Uh,
how would your planet poison you? You lived on it. That's neither here nor there.
it's radiation. Everything from before the 60s was radiation based.
That's real
So
true. Gotta have that Cold War reference.
that's
Uh,
right. Um,
I wanted to mention that William, Mark's best friend, is a great wingman and
I
really
I
helps him with this girl that he defended from a school bully,
mhm.
Amber. I it's a coming of age story with a lot of
Yeah.
other things involved in it. So I understand why, this 17-year-old kid, he has a crush. It's good to like explore those things, but I feel like they're going really heavy in this 8 episode, thing with a girl. We know he's gonna end up with Adam Eve. Why are you wasting our time with this, Amber?
Yeah, I mean, I love Sassy Beat, so I'm glad she's in the show.
True.
Uh,
True, true, true.
but yeah, I think, I mean, they're I do like that Mark has somebody to talk to, I guess, separate from just Amber, like somebody that it's kind of like super. It would be like kind of like Superman has somebody to talk to, and then Clark Kent having somebody, because at this
Yeah.
point Mark has to kind of keep that stuff separated, right? But we'll see. I mean, eventually, if he really likes Amber, like Omni-Man eventually told Debbie, like, I am Omni-Man, right? So he let her in the secret. So we'll see. That's which he let Eve immediately into his secret, but she also has powers. So like
Yeah, I
it's a
think
little
it's kind
different.
of different, kind of exposing
Mhm.
yourself as a hero to someone who is too versus to someone who isn't.
Right.
And this show also does seem to be going really heavy into the theme of keeping your work life and home life separate and having a good balance between those things.
Yeah.
And we
And that,
see Omni-Man really, really pushing for that, but I think that's because he's kind of a sociopath.
yeah. And I think that may be something that all the people that worked in the show in the last year, like they have been probably working from home for the most part. So it gets, I work from home for the past year. So it gets a little gray with those boundaries of like,
That's
I'm
very true.
it's like I'm living at work, right?
Yeah,
So
same. I guess that's why they say never do your homework in bed.
yeah, for sure. Um, the other thing I wanted to, so when the Flaxlands attack the second time, they come more prepared,
Yes.
because I like the idea that these guys keep coming back like better and stronger than the last time. Um, when they
Like
trap Mark with that,
Satan's.
yes, exactly. With the cement or whatever goo they used to, trap Mark.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm thinking that Voltrumites, whenever they get angry, they unleash a stronger power, which I think it could be what fuels Omni-Man. Because when Mark saw that, they were going to kill Eve or whatever, that's when he kind of exploded with rage or whatever.
Oh, that's
So,
interesting.
so I mean, I could just be reading too much into it because they asked him like, how come you had it unleash that kind of power? So I feel like Omni-Man keeps testing Mark's limits because he needs to know how far he can go. Like every time we see them talking or training, I feel like Omni-Man, not only is he talking to his son, but he's also talking to a potential rival.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, which I agree with that part, which is so dark.
yeah,
But I kind
yeah,
of saw it as like a fight or flight response,
mhm.
like a adrenaline rush, I guess.
Yeah,
But
yeah, that could be.
that'd be really cool if that were the case. Very Hulk. I like that.
Mhm.
And I thought the Flaxons were pretty cool, villains to have, and I really like
Oh
them. But
yeah,
that brings and like it's another. I think the show again is doing villains really well, and it's setting up good villains to have in each episode, but also villains that seem like they're going to carry over,
yes,
which is great setup. They set up another great villain in the next episode, but we're also seeing a lot of ELEs, extinction level events.
right.
Omni-Man fucked up that planet.
Oh my
When
god.
Omni-Man he goes through the portal with the Flaxons to go back to whatever dimensional world they live in,
Mhm.
and he just raised the planet. And he says in a very terrible, like J.K. Simmons obviously is such an amazing actor, a really great voice actor.
Yeah,
But when he said Earth isn't yours to conquer, oh, that
yeah.
was
He
creepy.
he didn't mean that. Like he didn't mean that. Like I'm defending Earth. He meant like you are. This is mine, and you're trying to take it from me.
Yes.
I definitely agree. So the whole thing with the Flaxons is in the first volume, uh, but in the comic, only Invincible and Omni-Man fight the Flaxons.
Yes.
Um, and then he goes into the portal, and we don't see what happens. At least in the first
Yes.
volume, we don't see what happens. He just comes back with a beard. Now, I'm thinking that eventually they show us in the comic, or they never showed us, and Robert Kirkman and the team wanted to show us because that's a really great way to tell Omni-Man, like, I mean, kind of show how strong he is, but also his intentions.
Well, in the comics, they hadn't. So the end of the first episode showed him taking out the Guardians of the Globe. That doesn't happen until a little bit later in the comic books.
Hmm.
So at this point in the comic books, when this actually happens, they were presenting Omni-Man to be a much more sincere and better person than he is. So
Oh,
I think
okay.
that this wouldn't have been possible for them to show that. I will say in
Yeah,
terms
yeah,
of how they drew it and animated it, the color scheme just pretty much just very bare reds, yellow,
yes.
and white was absolutely stunning and just terrifying. It looked gorgeous.
Yeah.
very, very beautiful destruction scene.
Yeah,
Uh,
there's so much, like all these episodes are so jam-packed. We haven't even gotten to the part where Seth Rogen shows up.
yeah, which is great. So Mark has to go in space. So to be clear, we've compared him to Superman. He cannot breathe in space. He can hold his breath in for up to about 2 weeks. So he can just hold his breath in space. And luckily, Alan happens to be an alien who is telepathic, and he is coming to Earth because of a mix-up. And he is voiced by Seth Rogen, who I believe is a producer on this show.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's really funny, but I think it's important that it does explain this in the comic books more. Sorry for spoilers, but it does show a difference between how Mark approaches the situation and how Omni-Man, Nolan,
Yeah.
approaches the situation. And that Mark, I mean, he's young and he's less serious and he's nicer, and he talks to Alan and
Yeah.
finds out what Alan wants, whereas Nolan just always fought him and didn't stop to chit chat. And if he had, he would have resolved things a lot easier.
Hmm.
So it turns out Alan works for this coalition of planets, and he's just there to see, as an evaluation officer, to see if they have a good person, like a defender for their world. But it turns out he's just on the wrong planet. And I think he actually is a lot more important in the comic books than he does return later on, from my understanding.
I would think so. I don't think you would cast. I mean, maybe you would cast Seth Rogen as a stunt thing, but I feel like it's gonna come back. It's such a cool world building device too, like to have that conversation of about the coalition of planets, because it expands on the universe. It lets us know that uh,
Definitely.
there are more forces out there patrolling the universe, not just Omni-Man and the Viltrumites. Uh, it gave me like Jacko the Space Patrolman feels, because that's kind of, they all have their own sector. Uh, so like, he watches over Earth and Dragon Ball. So like I love all that kind of stuff.
I
That
also really, really like that it sets up something for episode 4, in that going to space and how Mark is
Mhm.
in space, which will be very
Yeah.
important later. A lot of this has a lot of foreshadowing. I wrote foreshadowing all over all over
Yeah.
my.
Yeah, my notes are full of callbacks to the previous episodes.
Yes, 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 yes. So I guess I can go ahead and transition into episode 3, if there's
Mhm.
anything, unless there's anything else you wanted to mention about
Nope.
episode 2. Okay. So we begin with like the Guardians of the Globe funeral, in which Omni-Man is giving the eulogy, which again, dude is a sociopath. Like that is,
Yeah.
he's so creepy. It's super next level. And there's a line that Adam Eve says, which is, the public can't know where the actual bodies are buried because of souvenir hunters. And that's something that happens in the comics. So I don't know if maybe they're saying that so we know that that's not going to happen in the show,
Mm.
which is unfortunate because I really wanted it to happen since I read it. But this show, the episodes are really booking it through the comic book, like the
Yeah.
pacing. We're pretty far into like the first arc from what I've gathered, and it's they're definitely going to get pretty far into. I mean, with 8 episodes, they're definitely going to get pretty far into this, and they're. I mean, obviously they've restructured things like we've mentioned
Yeah.
before, but yeah, I'm really excited about how quickly they're doing things, and also very surprised.
So I did ask somebody that has read the comics, and they told me that the first 3 episodes, because I asked them before the latest one, they had covered maybe almost like the first 3 volumes, almost,
Yeah.
which I skimmed through just to look at the scenes in the comic, and it makes sense. Like, yeah, that's, but like you said, they're kind of picking and choosing their storylines that they're pulling from these episodes.
Yes, and I think they've picked very wisely. Like they're
Mhm.
doing a phenomenal job.
Yeah, I love the two funerals thing, because one of them is, I mean, sorry to bring up a Zack Snyder film, but anybody that's seen Batman v Superman, you get 2 funerals, one for the public, one privately, which is a very common trope in superhero stuff, because you have to protect those secret identities. So it's the same thing, right? They have a big speech from Omni-Man to the world.
Well, that actually didn't make sense to me. Like, because when they were doing the funeral, Mark and Debbie were just there as themselves. Wouldn't that be kind of obvious?
They're just really big fans of the Guardians.
Apparently. Yeah, apparently.
Yeah, no, you're right. That doesn't
So
make any sense.
so Cecil asks Robot of the team to come and work for the GDA and build a new Guardians of the Globe,
Yeah.
which is, we are gifted to the amazing Monster Girl, who might be one of my favorite characters on this show.
Yes.
And I'm not familiar with her voice actor, but so we get the tryouts, and she has a confrontation with Rex Flode, who we know is kind of a douchebag, as he cheated on Adam Eve with
Yeah.
quite a few of the duplicates, and
my
gave a
God.
non-apology, and that's just not cool, man. Just real not cool. And he's just kind of a douchebag all around, and Monster Girl put him in his place in a big bad way, and I loved it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the moment I realized when I was rewatching it that Rex Flowed is Gambit when he started doing that, and then he goes to try to do the reconciliation, exploding the fireworks or whatever. I was like, oh, dude, you oh my God, that's when it clicked in my head. But I love Monster Girl. I think the downside to her powers is so like so tragic in one way. Like, yeah, that just really sucks.
Yeah, so she turns into a monster, and every time she does, she becomes younger. And I like the conversation that she has with Robot about this.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like that is really Robot's what he replies to her is very, very much foreshadowing, which is, I understand what it's like for the world to look at you and see one thing, never knowing the truth of what's inside. And we also get the reveal in this episode that Robot is also a fucking villain. So many villains.
Yes, like, is everyone evil in this world? What's happening?
Apparently. So I don't know what anything about his character. So my theory is that he is trying to create like not a clone, but like he's growing a body to insert his consciousness into, because maybe he previously was a person who had his consciousness
Okay.
into a robot. That's my idea thus far.
Okay, I can see that. Yeah, I mean, either that or like he's figured out that the only way to save mankind is to remove mankind from the equation. Like a lot of artificial intelligences just kind of like that's the conclusion they come to after they, I mean, it's the same conclusion that Omni-Man's kind of come to, like, because when he takes Mark to Mount Everest, they have that conversation. This is a beautiful world. Too bad the humans keep trying to destroy it.
Yes.
So like all those little things, especially on the rewatch, like they hit different when you have to listen to Omni-Man's dialogue, because there's no, like, everything that he's saying, it's kind of like, it means two things. It's kind of like double speak.
Yes, absolutely. When he says to Mark, you're not just a superhero, you're a Viltrumite. We have responsibilities that normal humans don't.
Yeah.
That responsibility is to conquer Earth. Definitely. Another episode where I have to say, wow, there's so many dragons, because there are.
Oh my God.
And anyway, we get, they built a new Guardians of the Globe team with Robot at the lead. We get introduced to Black Samson, who's very important in the comic books. He had previously been part of the Guardians of the Globe, the old team, but he had lost his powers, and now I think he has a suit that gives him powers. And he's kind of a douchebag, but I like him.
Well, he's mainly a douchebag to Rex Blood, which it's fine with me.
Too.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I guess now knowing what we know about Robot, I don't mind either.
Yeah.
So just don't be mean to like Eve or Mark, and then you'll stay, or Monster Girl, and then he'll stay on my good sides. There's one other hero that she kind of looks like Artemis or Green Arrow, like, but they don't, she's kind of just in the background.
Shrinking Ray, I'm assuming she's
Oh
like,
yeah, yeah. Okay, that's who it was.
yes, I assume she's like Adam. So later in the episode, Mark is continuing to like try and date Amber. Again, not super important, just typical like coming of age superhero teenager stuff.
Yeah,
And
I guess if I had, I guess, one nitpick about the show, I wish I cared a little more about their relationship, but all the other stuff is so interesting
yeah,
that it just kind of feels like they feel like, I feel like they feel like they need to
I
have
wonder
that.
if they're gonna kill her, and that's gonna be something that's affects Mark.
I hope not.
I'm dark, sorry. Anyway, Cecil asks Mark and Adam Eve to go help with Doc Seismic,
Mhm.
who's going to emancipate you from your life. Such a bad one-liner. We also get
Yeah.
we get the reality. No one-liners are good. They're just not. They're just not.
Mm-mm.
And anyway, they team up and they take him out, and they realize they're a pretty good team. I really like them working together, and
Mhm.
think that's like all the important things about them. Um,
Yeah.
the Mahler twins escape from prison with Robot's help. I'm not sure in this iteration why he's helping them yet. And then one of the Mahler twins gets killed, and he has to make another clone. So we do get confirmation as to which one was the original, which is important.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I think the that reveal of Robot, I definitely, it blindsided me again. I guess not
Never
having read
trust
the
a
comics.
robot.
I guess not. I mean, he seems like a decent robot, but uh, you can't trust him. Too bad he's in charge.
Yeah,
Cecil's really got a bad. He's really bad judge of character.
for sure. And there's a lot of like father figure type characters or like authority
Hmm.
figures from Mark that turn out to be evil,
Yeah, yeah, they're just
which
not
really
great influences
sucks.
overall. Mark's best influence right now is Debbie, I think, and I feel like he's not the closest with her
Yeah,
now that he has super. Like, I feel like they were closer when, and I think they have a conversation outside the yard in one of the episodes.
the first episode I think
Yeah,
was
yeah.
really
So,
great.
yeah. So I love Sandra. Oh, like
There are also
she
like some moments between her and Nolan that are like, whoa, I'm very nervous for your safety.
same, same because, and I can't see at this moment so far at least. I can't see Nolan hurting her in any way, but I feel like if things escalate enough, he could get there.
I'd also say like her
Uh,
character seems very blasé and like she doesn't care about things
mhm.
for the first couple episodes, but then it kind of shows more about how she behaves. And I think that's a vast improvement on how she is in the comic book. I
Mhm.
appreciate that. I'm assuming there was someone in the writer's room who was like, maybe let's make this a three-dimensional character, and they did the same with Adam Eve.
Mhm.
So I assume that's either just the Kirkman or just people in the writers' room either like grown up and just
Yeah,
have more knowledge, or they maybe have a woman in the writers' room now who's maybe like, let's change this a little bit. But either way, they've definitely written those two characters specifically a lot better for the show than they did in the comic book.
okay. I mean, and I think those are the kind of things that are gonna, I'll find out once I get into more reading the comic. I love seeing those differences and spotting them. So, but I'm glad to see that they have fixed a few things, or at least streamlined them and updated them in a good way.
Yes, I would very much concur with that.
And then we get once again Damien Darkwood stirring shit up with Debbie.
Yeah, I don't like that's just it's weird to me. Like, why would you go to a superhero's house and
Yeah,
like let his wife in on a you suspect him. You do. Because what's she gonna do? What are you gonna do? Come on. You're just making a dangerous situation.
yeah, yeah. Because he confronted Nolan directly, and that, I mean, that didn't go very well. Like, and then he talks to his wife, but like, what is she gonna do at the moment? At this point, I feel like he's just putting her in danger, if anything.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. I feel bad for her. Again, there are moments where I feel very concerned for her safety. And
Yeah,
there are moments where I'm like, I would probably leave. Yeah. Cause he's again, Omni-Man can just be really like he can be subtly scary or he can be like, whoa, dude, take it down.
yeah, for sure.
So when we get to episode 4, which has a phenomenal title, which is Neil Armstrong, Eat Your Heart Out.
Yes.
And so it opens with something that we don't see throughout the rest of the episode. So I'm assuming this is going to be important for, maybe episode 5 or,
Mhm.
somewhere later down the line. Again, another what looks like is going to be a very big villain, which is we have a group of people excavating a pyramid and awaken a very old mummy, Kahor, I believe his name was. And then it
Yeah,
cuts to the rest of the episode, which has nothing to do with him.
yeah. This episode felt like 4 different little shorts, and like, yeah, 4 little different shorts. You get that little thing at the beginning, and then I think it's Olga and Debbie talking, right? Red Rush's
Yep.
wife, which it's interesting. I mean, the relationship with Red Rush, like as short lived as it was in the show, like you can see how it would be so difficult.
Yeah, I like that it's giving weight to these characters that were brutally murdered.
Hmm.
And it's not only allowing us to see, we're seeing how much people cared about these characters, which makes Omni Man's actions that much more horrific.
Yeah,
And it also allows Debbie to become more increasingly suspicious of her husband, which is subtly kind of like a horror movie.
for sure. Yeah, I mean the little escalations, and then now that Debbie's involved with Olga, is she gonna find something out? I have a feeling Olga's gonna go missing, because the GDA is not gonna leave any loose strings, but who knows?
Yeah, I will say like the only complaint I have about the show is it showed Debbie cleaning her house. Realtors aren't going to clean your house. Let's get real. That no realtor has ever cleaned their client's house in the history of
Right.
realty. That's
No, that's,
unrealistic. But everything else I'm good with.
you know what though? If they are friends, I guess she might do it because she
You're
knows she's
still gonna
leaving.
hire someone.
But yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
But yeah, I really liked Olga, and what she said was very true in
Yeah.
that the government's lying. And I mean, again, Cecil definitely know Omni Man is guilty, and they're spying on the Grayson's house, and they sent Dark Blood, Damien, the demon detective. That's such a great name. Back to
It's really
hell
good.
because he wasn't dropping the case, and
Mhm.
Cecil really needs to wait. I also in the last episode they took the dragon that Omni-Man had been fighting that was still alive after he had fought him and put it on ice because you never know when something like that's going to be useful. So I wonder if
Yeah.
that's going to come back and they're going to use it to attack Omni-Man.
How's that? I think his name is Donald. How's that dude everywhere?
I don't
The
know.
Cecil's
In this kind of
assistant.
stuff, they always have an assistant that's multiple places. He's like Agent Coulson.
He reminds me so much of him, and I was like, no, there's no way. Like Colston wasn't around back then when this came out. So yeah, I think he's just like the stereotypical government agent that maybe that's why uh Colson got the job he did, right? Or the actor who plays Colson, Clark Gregg, because he just
Yeah,
looks like that government agent.
he does so much. Like again, like when it comes to like perfect casting,
Mhm.
that was it. So this, yeah, you were right when you were saying earlier. This the episode feel like it's kind of split into a few pieces, and we do have a few different like storylines. So we have Debbie and Nolan's storyline, and they're working on their marriage, which is kind
Mhm.
of in the ruts because Debbie thinks her husband's a murderer.
Yeah.
As you do. And you have Mark's storyline, wherein he goes off to Mars to shadow a mission, the first manned mission to Mars, and that brings in another important villain. And then we have Cecil, who's trying to
Yes.
figure out who killed the Guardians of the Globe. I think that was all of them. Yes. So for the Mars mission, this yeah, you ever watch something? It's like, oh, kid, I know you're gonna fuck this up.
Oh yeah, I'm almost, I'm not amazed at how incompetent Mark is, but I think it's endearing because it makes you feel like, that was one of the things that when they introduced some of those teen superheroes, like, you know, like you introduce Robin or Spider-Man and people like that are young, like readers, and at the time it's like them on the page, or at least that was the idea. Mark, you know, he is the, we all want to be the big superhero, but we really are probably Mark, or even somebody that's not even close to that. So I like that a lot. I like that he's not perfect from the get-go.
Yeah.
Um,
He in the beginning, he wants to be like his father. He
mhm.
really wants to be a hero. This is something that he spent his life waiting to get his powers. This is
Yeah,
something that is so important to him. In the first episode where that we open with a security guard, he's talking about he's a stepfather and he's talking about his stepson and how they're getting closer. And then the next episode opens with the stepson calling him dad for the first time as they're hit by
yeah,
the trash bag that Mark threw and realized he had his powers for the first time, which is a great gag. And it really kind of hits that relationship, kind of hits onto what the show, I originally thought what the show was going to be about, which is this
mhm.
father son relationship, which it absolutely is. It's not in the direction I realize now that it's
Yeah.
going. Being this basically, I mean, it's kind of like Superman and Lois, where you have like the children of Superman, and
Mhm.
those are some big shoes to fill, and that's a
Yeah.
big shadow to live under.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought up the security guard because as I was doing the rewatch, I started tracking him. I was like, wait, is this dude at the beginning of every episode? He's not. He's only at the beginning of the first two. But I was like, oh,
Where he goes.
I was like, I think I'm finally onto something because I'm usually so bad at keeping track of these little things, like the
And
little
also
nods.
he's voiced by John Hamm, so I just figured he's gonna be more important.
Yeah, yeah. I just saw that too when I was looking at the cast list. I was like, who is this John? Who's John Hamm playing?
Yeah, so I maybe he'll come back and we'll see him.
Mhm.
He does guard the White House, so I mean he's got an important job.
That's a
We know so much
dangerous
about his
job.
life now.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be funny if he got hired by the GDA? That'd be cool. Anyway, so I liked the running gag. And I like that now that he has his powers and he's starting to go off on his own missions. When he's first asked, or when he first volunteers to go to Mars, because Nolan doesn't want to, um, Debbie says something. I'm trying to find what she says. Oh gosh.
Well, in the meanwhile, I like that Nolan's playing hardball with the GDA, right? No, we see this multiple times. He doesn't want to go to Mars. While they're on vacation, there's another kaiju attacking the city of
Yes,
Rome, and he's like, "No, the GDA has people to take care of this. I'm on vacation with my wife."
that was one of those moments where I'm like, Debbie, leave him, run.
Yeah, right.
So Debbie tells Mark, a lot of people are going to tell you how to use your powers, but it's up to you to make these decisions. You need to decide what kind of hero you want to be. Which I
Right.
think that's going to be important later when there's fallout from Omni-Man murdering the Guardians of the Globe, and Mark's
For
going to
sure.
have to make the decision of be a hero and fight against his father,
Mhm,
or
mhm.
side with his father as a Viltrumite.
Yeah. No, that's exactly what I think. I mean, it's I I'm not looking forward to Mark having to make that choice because I like Mark a lot.
Yeah.
It's weird. I'm glad I like the main character because if you don't like the main character, that loses a lot.
Yes.
So Steve Young, like I like him a lot on The Walking Dead. So I'm glad that he's doing this. I still need to watch his movie Minari before the
Yeah.
award ceremony. But yeah, I'm glad. Like I said, the cast on this is amazing.
Definitely agree with that. And there even like some of these characters that are just like barely in it are like
Mhm.
super famous people where I'm like, why were you in this for just a couple of lines?
Yeah, it
That's
makes
like
me wonder
insane.
sometimes if they're like, hey, can I be in that? Do you have anything for me in that show? Like
Yeah, like
I just wanted to
Mahershala
be in this.
Ali was like a few lines. Like, how do you get Mahershala Ali for like these
Mhm.
seconds?
He
Seconds?
just want he just likes being in comic book movies.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, 'cause he'll be Blade, and he was in that in Luke Cage. So yeah, that's cool. Now I guess back to the stuff in Mars.
Yes. Like,
Don't.
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
So I was gonna say, Mark falls asleep and the astronauts get abducted, as you do.
Right.
And so Mark has to go find them, and he meets the Martian emperor, and he learns about these things called sequids. I'm saying that right?
Yeah, I think. I mean, that's what. Yeah, that's as good as we're gonna pronounce it.
And again, we're introduced another villain. So they're
Mhm.
these a world destroying race, and they kind of bond. They're like a hive mind, and they can bond onto certain species and not to others. So they can't bond to Martians, and they can't bond to Viltrumites, but they can bond to humans, and they just need
Mhm.
one. And if a single sequid fuses to just one of your people, they will rise up and savage Mars and soon after Earth. And of course, they get one of the astronauts, who is Russ
Mhm.
Livingston. And if you've seen Subspecies 2, this is the plot to Subspecies 2.
I like
I'm
that it's
sorry,
a
not
sequel.
Subspecies, not Subspecies, Species. Different
Okay.
movies, Species. This is a plot of Species
I
2.
didn't even know there was a movie called Subspecies too.
Yes, it's
So
about vampires, and it's my favorite vampire franchise.
I do. I mean, for anybody that's this is pretty much Starro, right? Starro the Conqueror. That's the Sequids. So I love that they're just bringing in anything that. I mean, Robert Kirkman loves comic books. He's said that before, and working in this industry for so long, like you're gonna pull in as many things as you're legally allowed to without paying royalties for stuff.
Yes.
But yeah, they like once again, you mentioned this before, like they're just setting up really great things, and eventually all these villains are gonna come to fruition. I hope they are. I
Yeah.
guess I guess they could really drop the ball on all this on the last half of the season.
Yes, and this
Uh,
episode not only introduces two new villains, but it also gives us another extinction level event. I'm pretty sure
yep,
Mars is just, the Martians are gone now.
yeah, yeah. Which we never got to see much of the Martian Man on the Guardians. So
We do know
uh,
or no, we don't, not in the show. Never mind.
his death was also one that was rough.
Yeah, because he was hanging out with those, impoverished children. It
Hmm.
seemed really
Hmm.
cool.
So, but yeah, I'm excited. I love, like I said, I love that Mark is not perfect and he's got his flaws, and that kind of leads to like he's gonna have to learn from all these mistakes. Like you mentioned, they might kill the. I mean, it might lead to, oh Jesus, Amber getting hurt. Hopefully not dying, but at least maybe getting hurt because of Mark.
Yeah. Oh, that could be too. Just getting hurt, or
Mhm.
yeah, or he
I
just
mean,
realizes that he can't keep up like the secret identity
mhm.
and the superhero ness, and just decides that he can't be with her. Um,
One quick
I
thing.
wonder when we get the Omni Man comes out as being the person to have murdered the Guardians of the Globe, how the new Guardians of the Globe will react to them, since they know Omni Man is his father.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, because he yells out Dad. Oh, that's interesting because they could think he's kind of like a plant or a.
Yeah, so like Cecil says, when he sends him to Mars, originally they wanted Omni Man to go so that they can have him off planet while they're investigating, but having
Mhm,
Mark
mhm.
go allows him to see what his powers are, like what he can do, as well as
Yeah,
where his heart's at. And so we see that Mark fucks things up, but his heart's in the right place.
yeah, but maybe the government's like, did he fuck it up on purpose? Like, is this all part of his? Like, is he being incompetent on purpose, like
So I
sabotage?
I
So,
wonder, like, when the sequids come, they can fuse with anyone, but Viltrumites, I don't know if there are other aliens on the planet now. I mean, there are probably a few, but I don't know, like, if they'll be able to
mhm.
get them either. So I think that's interesting in that we know Omni-Man won't allow for another species or thing to come and conquer Earth.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Yeah, I like this because it's like Omni-Man has to keep playing the hero to maintain his own goal of him being the one that conquers Earth. Oh, that's insane.
Yeah.
uh, one quick thing I just read. I was going through the cast list. Mark Hamill is the Taylor.
Yes.
He's art. I
Mhm.
was like, how did I miss that? Oh my god, everyone's in this show. How am I not a voice in this thing?
Everyone and their auntie. Yes.
I'm gonna send some voice recordings
Also,
to
I
Perfidy.
think Mark Hamill's just kind of in everything also.
Mhm.
Like, you know
Yeah,
that game 6 Degrees from Kevin Bacon? I think
yeah,
everyone's like 1 degree from Samuel L. Jackson and 2 from Mark Hamill.
yeah. I think this is a bad tangent, but my favorite role of his recently has been in What We Do in the Shadows. He
I don't
played a
see it.
vampire. Yeah, in season 2, he plays a vampire. Oh my god, please go watch it.
Oh,
I
I'm gonna have
think
to look
you.
that up.
Yeah, please. I loved it. I love. It was one of my favorite episodes of season 2 of What We Do in the Shadows. But anyways, back to Invincible.
Yes. So we have Cecil and Donald send Darkblood back to hell because he continues to investigate. But we see at the very end of the episode that Damien is still around, so he avoided going to hell.
Mhm.
But now he's pretending to have been in hell. Also, can he be invisible? I'm just curious. And then we know Robot is growing that person. It's very Dr. Giro vibes. I like it, except it's
Yes.
reversed.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, we know that the astronaut Russ Livingston is coming back with the Sequoid. And I'm very much looking forward to episode
Yeah, and
5.
that mummy's just out there doing
Yes,
something,
apparently.
and there's
And I
probably
need to
more
know what the mummy's powers are.
kaiju around. So then we'll see. Yeah, I mean this show. I I'm glad Amazon's taking a chance on a lot of these things from the comics.
Yeah.
I love seeing things being adapted to the screen, especially when the creators are so involved as this.
Yes.
Because it keeps what made it original in the show, but it also gives it a new spin. So
That's true. Like you really get like the heart of the source material, and also who knows the source material better than the person who wrote it?
exactly.
Like,
And it finally gives some of these comic creators like, hey, comics don't always have like a good retirement account or whatever. So it gives them something really nice. So I love it. I love it in a lot of these things.
yeah, definitely, definitely, definitely. Is there anything else you wanted to say about the show? The first 4
Uh
episodes.
no, I don't think so. I'm definitely gonna keep reading the comic. I think especially since there's only 4 episodes left. Whenever season 1's over, I'll start reading the comic or I'll continue with volume 2 because I
Yeah,
want to see all these differences.
I'm curious to see if they're going to. So far, it's been pretty in line. They've just kind of switched some things around, kind of like a puzzle piece, and they've just like
Hmm.
switched things around, and they're telling it a little bit more tightly, and they're showing us some things that we hadn't. They just mentioned in the comics. Now that we're actually getting to see expanded out. But I wonder if, as they continue to go on, if they're going to diverge more and just keep like the big story arcs kind of intact, or if they're going to keep it pretty close to the comic book and just kind of expand and elaborate and just mix some things up a little bit for the sake of storytelling on a different medium.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, because comics can do so many things that TV can't. Also, like
Sure.
there's a lot because there's a lot of audiences that they need a little bit more of a straightforward story. Uh, Sometimes it's hard to keep up with everything. I've been known to have to go reread the previous episode of a comic or the previous issue before I read the new one.
Yeah,
So,
same.
but yeah, I'm excited. I'm loving the show, and I'm glad we got to talk about it for these
Yeah.
4 episodes.
Okay. So do you want to plug anything or mention where the people can find you?
Yeah, sure. You can find me on Twitter at Echo Spider. That's ECKO. And I'm also a co-host on the Next Issue podcast, where we do live episodes almost every Sunday. We just started doing a lot of YouTube stuff, so yeah, go check that out if you like comics. If, as you can kind of tell from my background, I like comics a little bit.
Yes. It's awesome
So
looking, by the way.
thank you. But yeah, we're very excited to start doing stuff on YouTube. But yeah, thanks for having me.
Okay, cool, cool, cool. And thank everyone for watching. And remember, your day will be improved with a flying Godzilla kick.
Hell yeah.